originally from Flint, Michigan. Who's heard of Flint, Michigan, by the way?
I
Raise your
have.
hand. So I'm sure if you've heard of Flint, Michigan, you've also heard of the water crisis. But I grew up there, and that's when I was introduced to acting. Now, to be quite frank, I would be the least likely guy to be an actor and a speaker. There we go, an actor and a speaker, um, because when I was well, I've had an adult body and an adult face since I was 13 years old. And when I was 13 years old, I actually flunked my first acting class because every time I got up in front of people, I would forget all my lines because I had stage fright. I wasn't used to speaking. And so when I got into the ninth grade, there was a theater teacher there, and he anchored me in some principles. He anchored me in some techniques that put me in a position where I was able to discover my talent as an actor. And so from there, I went on to theater school. I went on to act professionally with theater companies. And here in Memphis, I belong to Tennessee Shakespeare Company. Have you all heard of Tennessee Shakespeare Company here in Memphis, here in the city? It's in Germantown. I work with them, and then also too, as Casey said, I work in film and television. Also, I've worked with Bluff City Law. I've also was in a movie called Nothing But the Truth with Kate Beckinsale and Matt Dillon. I've been on Hallmark television shows. I was in the Bryant Banks movie that was shot here. And I also do solo performances. I play Black historical characters. And before COVID, I was traveling all around the country. But even now, I do Zoom performances as well as pre recorded performances. There's a pre recorded performance I just did that's being sent off to DC where I normally perform. And I've worked with, as far as a coach, I've worked with commercial advisors, Cushman and Wakefield, Sycamore Pictures, which is one of the movie companies that's in Memphis, Nucor Steel, First Tennessee, and also with the former city council head, Kemp Conrad. Um, as far as my company, we can change slides there if you don't mind, Casey. Solo Spire, which is dedicated to inspirational presenting. What got me into that was actually the son of the founder of Commercial Advisors, Cushman and Wakefield, Luke Jensen, who's the son of Larry Jensen, and he wanted to start TEDx Memphis. I don't. How many of you have heard of TEDx or TED Talks? Alexia, you have? Okay. Has anyone not heard of TED Talks, or because if you haven't?
So we actually were the sponsor of TEDx Memphis last year.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay, great. So if you heard the TEDx speakers last year, I was the coach. And I became the coach to TEDx speakers really since it came into existence because Luke Jensen approached me and asked if I would be, knowing that I was an actor, asked if I would also be the coach. And so over the past 5 years, I've coached 60 plus individuals that are leaders of nonprofits, small business owners, people with great ideas in the community, leaders of corporations that I've coached them basically in their public speaking. And I've realized one thing in common that whether I was working with people who were really talented naturally or who really struggled, they all had trouble putting together the content because they like how I was when I was a kid, they weren't able to anchor themselves in what they were speaking about. And so, what I want to talk to you about right now, Casey brought me on to talk to you about brand. Now, you should know that I am not a brand expert at all, but I am a story expert. And within every brand, there is a story. Now, the issue that we are all facing is that we are in a time like no other. And from what I understand, that you all are very talented in what you do. But the game has changed. It's changed for you as well as for me. And that's being in COVID and having to go from being in person, which from working with you guys, you do a lot of in-person presentations, to having to present online. The same with me. I do a lot of in-person performing, and now I've had to change to doing it online. But still, even with that, we have to find a way to be good ambassadors of our brand. You have your brand, and I have my brand. When I first was working with Tennessee Shakespeare, it was very important to Tennessee Shakespeare that when we, the actors, were out in the community, that we were representing the mission of Tennessee Shakespeare, the vision of Tennessee Shakespeare, and also the brand of Tennessee Shakespeare. And we were asked to represent Tennessee Shakespeare in every way that we could, because we wanted to continue to gain audience members to be a part of what we were doing and telling the stories that we were telling. So she brought me here today to talk to you all about that. And one of the things that I want to encourage you all is the development of your presentation, the development of your story is a part of developing the brand as you represent it. So there's several things when I'm teaching presentational coaching that I believe work that helps make your presentation better. So I want to ask you all a question. You probably in college heard of the terms logos, ethos, pathos, and you might not have heard teleos. But who has heard of those terms? And if so, can anyone tell me, for instance, what logos, what that is? And I think Casey, you're gonna have to help me because I can't see everyone. Who knows what logos is?
Logic?
Logic, that's right. Logos is logic. And we're gonna get into that and why it's very important. What about pathos?
Emotions and reasoning.
I appreciate that. Actually, did you say passion and reasoning?
Emotions.
Emotions, that's right. Emotions, that's right. The reasoning piece goes more
Hey,
along the
Bill,
lines of logos.
or Darius, I was going to say a quality that evokes pity or sadness, according to Google.
Beautiful. That's coming right out of Aristotle's Poetics. Google is quoting Aristotle.
I had to get Google up. I'm sorry. Good job.
You Google quicker than me, Don.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, as long as you get to it. Well, Google is actually quoting Aristotle, who came up with this. So pathos is where you're stimulating the emotions. What about ethos? Who can tell me what ethos is? What does ethos sound like? Say it again.
Ethics?
Ethics. That's right. Ethics. And so what that relates to is that you're credible, basically. But it gets even a little deeper than that. We'll get into that. And one you may not have ever heard of, and that's teleos. Has anyone heard of teleos? I see someone's Googling it now. Let's see.
I would say persuasion.
Huh?
I would say persuasion.
Well, it's a part of it. Really, teleos is getting to the point. What does the listener, what do they walk away with? What is the goal of what you're trying to present? So ethos is connection to the self, you being qualified to talk about what you're speaking on. Logos is logic or reasoning or being able to make it make sense, communication. Pathos is emotion, where you get into mainly storytelling. And then teleos is how you're connecting to the listeners. And for you guys, it would be connecting to the community. So let's get into it. Ethos is intrapersonal communication or connection to yourself. Why do you think that's important? Why do you think being connected, and what do you think that means when it says being connected to yourself?
Yes, being more personable.
Being more personable.
As
That's
you're
right.
presenting.
That's right. Being more personable. Anybody else? let me just say that it is also how you communicate to yourself. So, in other words, if you're communicating to yourself negatively, no matter what you present to the people, to the public, they will receive that. So, in other words, if you don't have healthy communication with yourself, then how will you have healthy communication with other people? Now, here is where it gets into what Casey brought me here for. It's not just connection to yourself, it's connection to you representing Orion. How are you connected to Orion? How are you, what are you telling yourself about Orion? Are you congruent in your feelings about the company that you work for and what the brand, the mission, and the vision is? Is it connected to you in a way where you're presenting to the public? Is it congruent? Does it connect together? Because if you're not connected to the vision, the mission, if you're not being a good ambassador of the brand, then it's going to be very difficult to be authentic when you're out there presenting to the people. As an actor, I mentioned one theater company, but there's another theater company that I belonged to a few years ago where I found myself not congruent. I wasn't really connected. I was only there to just work as an actor, but I found it very difficult to perform. I found it very difficult to show up. I've always felt hypocritical when I was performing because I didn't feel connected to the vision or the mission. And eventually, I had to let it go. I let it go for a few years. But after a few years being an actor and needing work, I reconnected to the company and I went through the same cycle. I didn't feel connected to the vision. I didn't feel connected to the mission. I was incongruent with everything that the company was all about because my mind and my heart was somewhere else. And but I began to see within the company that it had such great value to the community, and I wanted to keep working. So I really had to change. I had to tell myself a different story. I had to communicate to myself differently about the theater company that I was working with if I would continue to work with them, and I did that. And in doing that, in buying into what the theater company was all about, there was a transformation in me. And I began to move up in the leadership of the company and wasn't just an actor anymore, but became a facilitator. And even to this day, I facilitate and I also conduct a lot of programs with this theater company, even virtually, because I, I became connected to the vision, the mission, and the brand. So one of the first things that I teach is becoming connected to yourself. Uh, there's a young man that one of the speakers that I work with, he had a speech that was given to him, and every time we worked on it, just like how it was when I was a kid, he would always forget what he was saying. He couldn't go 4 or 5 lines without breaking down. And no matter how many times we worked on it, I would say our first session, we worked on probably 2 lines of his speech for at least an hour because one, he's an introvert, and two, he kept forgetting it. And so we stopped and we talked, and what I found was he really didn't believe in what he was saying. He felt that he was being hypocritical. And so we had to dial back and we had to redo his content so that he could be connected to what he was talking about. And so, as it relates to you with Orion, with the brand, with the mission, being leaders, the question that I have for you is, are you connected? And so what I'd like for you to do, this I think this works a little bit different than Zoom. I don't know if you're able to, I think you are able to put in the chat. I want you to put something in the chat for me. First, I want you to put in the chat, this is just to you, what is the Orion brand? What is the Orion brand? And hopefully I'll be able to see some of these. I've never done a workshop on this platform. Can you put that in the chat? And if you can see them, Casey.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mhm.
Would you like them to reply to everyone or just reply directly to you?
To everyone.
Okay.
Yes, to everyone. What is the Orion brand? Can you see them, Casey?
I don't see anybody's post yet, no.
I'll go first. I don't know, Casey, I'm afraid to respond, but I'll go first.
Yeah, it's just, okay, passion for our members. Orion is a brand about serving our community. Good. Keep them coming in. I don't know how many people are on.
No wrong answers, just a workshop.
Yeah, it's just a workshop. I'm just seeing, because more than likely you're right. Loyalty and trust. Very good. What else? Being connected to the brand. So serving the community, loyalty and trust. What else do you have out there? Orion's beacon of hope in a financial crisis. Beautiful. Redefining banking. Products and services to meet needs. Making life better for the team and the community. Beautiful. Be a source of financial independence. Beautiful. All right. Now, turn your attention away from the chat, back to this workshop, and keeping in mind what, for you intuitively, oh, here's another one, serving the community, being a leader in financial solutions. Beautiful. So thinking about...
Wait, somebody copied and pasted that.
Oh, they did?
I love
Let it
it.
come
We're
from you.
staying
Let it come from you.
consistent. Consistent messaging.
All right. So, okay, beautiful. So keeping in mind of intuitively for yourself, what the Orion brand is to you, I'd like for Casey and I've already talked about this, if she can read just a portion of what Orion says the brand is. Go ahead, Casey.
Okay, well, I'll just speak from the cuff here. I won't read, but
Yeah.
you know, we are a full service financial institution, and we really are meeting our community where their financial needs are in this with our products and services. Our brand really wants to bank the unbanked and empower our members toward financial freedom, so that they can manage their finances and have the support they need to be able to finance their biggest dreams of home ownership. Their dreams are taking a once in a lifetime family vacation, sending their kids to college, being able to support our members on their financial journey and really meet the needs of the community with our products and services. And this is, I'm saying this to you guys because we're speaking internally, but we're never a sell aggressive financial institution. What we want to do is listen to our members, hear where they are, and pair those products and services with them for their needs that will support whatever their financial goals are. I think that Orion is very present in the community, and we do our community giving not just through Orion Gives Back and supporting nonprofits and sponsoring festivals and events that bring our community together, but also in a lot of our decisions, like where we're going to put our headquarters and to move our headquarters into a blighted neighborhood to transform and you know, be a catalyst for economic development between the medical district and downtown. And so we really are giving back in our community in more ways than just sponsorships. We're doing it by providing products to our community that they need, that other institutions, financial institutions, and banks aren't offering. So
Thank you, Casey. And so I'd love it if some courageous soul can now, after hearing what Casey just said as to what Orion feels its brand is, and I don't think it contradicts anything that anyone else says, but what you said is what you said. So I want to know from someone out there, how is what you said connected to what Casey just said? Who wants to share?
I can share. I actually didn't put anything in the chat, but I'll share for sure. I was gonna say service oriented,
Uh-huh.
but I think also I think as a brand, I think we push the norm of what is considered to be a bank or a financial institution, right? Just like Casey said, as far as educating people to make sure they're educated financially literate, having products and services that may serve a population that normally doesn't get served.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think from my standpoint, and Phil, you trained me from a speaker standpoint to go do speaking on financial literacy, and so I can see
Beautiful.
the front line when people say, "I didn't know, I didn't know this is how credit works. I didn't know that from an auto loan standpoint or buying a home. I didn't know that this was the process to do that." And with Orion being focused on making sure folks are educated, making sure their products and services serve people the right way, and so I think that's the brand, which attaches to what Casey said, but kind of my perspective, kind of seeing it from firsthand when you're working with people. So.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Alton. So I'm hoping what you're gaining from this, because this is a core value in what I teach. It's very important, in my belief, that you're connected to yourself, but for you, it also means being connected to the company that you represent. Within the Orion story, we're going to get into that in a minute here. Within the Orion story, there's a great deal of community, there's a great deal of compassion, there's a great deal of independence, a great deal of courage. And when you think about what Orion represents, when you think about what all the elements that are in the story of Orion, if there's a way that you yourself can connect to it, if you haven't already, or found those same elements within yourself, the compassion, the courage, the need for community, because, and we'll get into this also in a little while later, uh, what sets Orion Credit Union apart from all the other financial institutions in Memphis. Every time I hear the story, I'm moved because of the kind of service that Orion has to offer to the community. So it's really important for you to be connected to that. And let me just say, before we get off of this subject, when I mean being connected to yourself, that's also really important, because you're a leader. And if you're not taking care of yourself mentally, if you're not taking care of yourself emotionally, if you're not taking care of yourself physically, how are you going to be able to be out there or even online presenting to other people healthy solutions, even though it's financial, when you yourself are struggling in all these different areas? So as a leader, you definitely want to get into a space where you're taking care of yourself in all those areas. So that's ethics, that's ethos. Now, the next thing I want to talk about that kind of still connects to ethics is preparation. You can go to the next slide there.
Darius,
Yes, uh-huh.
I just wanted to remind everybody that this workshop is in follow-up to the I Am the Brand talk that we had during our annual meeting, and that those documents are on SharePoint that you can access or refresh anytime. And as leaders, especially as we're meeting with our teams or have new team members join us, connecting them with that document and just refreshing with ourselves every 3 or 6 months is a great help to us and our team. So it's there for you as a resource on SharePoint.
Okay, great. So the other really important thing that you want to have when you're out presenting is preparation. Preparation is very much a part of being a good ambassador for the brand, being a good ambassador um, for Orion, understanding who you are, but also understanding who you are meeting with, who you are, and who you are meeting with. As an actor, is one of the major things that I have to do as an actor, I just did a film where I played a private eye detective that smokes cigars. Well, I'm not a smoker. So I actually had to do the preparation to figure out how to the whole ritual of how to smoke a cigar. But I also had to do a lot of preparation, a lot of research and study on what a private eye detective does on a regular basis. I play Frederick Douglass all around the country. Right now, as a matter of fact, I'm normally clean shaven. There's two characters that I'm going to have to do in a couple of months. So I'm normally bald, but I'm starting to grow my hair out a little bit for a character whose name is Carter G. Woodson. But also, too, I play Frederick Douglass. And I'm sure everybody has anybody not heard of Frederick Douglass? Everybody know who Frederick Douglass is? He was an abolitionist back in the 1800s. He had a very distinct look, a nice sized beard, and also big hair. So I'm growing the beard, and I got a wig, but I'm growing a beard for that role. So, but to be an actor and to do that role properly, I must prepare. I must research on numerous levels, not just memorizing lines, but also the emotional content of every moment in the story, how they dressed during the time, the way they spoke during the time, his history. And so the reason why I bring that up is because as presenters, it's very important for you to understand the products that you're representing as well as the entity itself. So with that in mind, I'd like to know the story of Orion. Who wants to be another courageous soul that can tell me the story of Orion, the origins, in your own words? Who wants to share?
Orion started at East High School. I remember because I went to East High School, and it was
Beautiful.
started by a group of teachers. Then they had a piano bench, and that's where they would conduct all their transactions inside of the school. And then
Yes.
they started off as Memphis Area Teacher Credit Union. And as the credit union began to grow and develop, and we were open up to everyone in the community and not just teachers. She has the piano bench.
Oh, wow.
That's when we
Beautiful.
transitioned. We began to transition from not just being this local credit union, but being federally chartered, and now changing our name from Memphis Area Teacher Credit Union to Orion Federal Credit Union. And Orion is all about the constellations and bringing everyone together. So
Okay,
that's
beautiful.
my spiel.
That's great. That's great. And so how would knowing that story relate to being connected to the community that you're serving? And when I say community, I don't mean just groups. I know you all do a lot of group presentations, but what about individuals? What about strangers, family members, or families? How
So,
does this? Yeah, go ahead,
so
Casey.
as a credit union, what we learned from those teachers who worked out of that piano bench is that when you pull your resources and come together, you can really build something greater for the community. And I think at the heart of what a credit union is and the basis of our foundation, that's who we are. Building something greater, coming together and providing something better than we could as an individual could ever do.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so you all are understanding. It's kind of like what I had to do for this. I understand who I am, what I represent as an actor and speaker, but I also have to understand some things about who you are and what you're all about in order to present to you. So, why do you think it's important for you to not just know who you are, right, but also to know who you're meeting with or who you're speaking to? Why is it important to understand what's happening with them? Somebody else speak to that.
So you can relate to them better?
That's right, so that you can relate to them better. What else? And let me just stop there. When you say relate to them better, can you give me some examples of that? What does it
I
mean to be able to relate to them? Go ahead.
basically, so you can connect with them. If you find a common link somewhere, you know, the eye contact, and you can actually connect with them at a different level than just being a speaker.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's beautiful. And what else? So it's how to relate to them. And there's a couple of other things too that is good to know about the people that you're meeting with, or institutions or organizations or nonprofits that you're meeting with. Why else is it good to know about them? Who else?
Something that comes to mind to me is the sociological concept of like collective effervescence, which is essentially just that we as a whole are greater than the sum of our parts. And there's something lost there individually, as opposed to looking at it as a community, as a society. And I think that that's something that Orion really stands out for, because we do try to approach it not as we are improving the community and we are enabling and empowering the community, but vice versa, kind of we're empowering ourselves as a part of the community. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy there. And I think that that's a really powerful part of the brand as well.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, what you all are saying is it could be summed up in one word, and it's an acting technique, actually. And when I say acting, a lot of times when we think acting, we mean falsehood. But actually, acting is the art of telling the truth, being truthful in imaginary circumstances. So there's one word, and that word, relationship. Relationship. If you have a relationship with someone, it's not just about you, right? It's about the other person. It's not just about everything that I am, but it's also about what that person's, not just about that person, but also what their needs are. What their needs are. When you understand what the needs are, that's where you're able to serve. And when that person understands who you are and what you're all about, now there's a real connection. So, and let me just say,
Kind of like love languages.
exactly, beautiful, just like love languages, right? Because relationships, if you think about, like, let's say, let's use Casey for example. Casey, do you have any? You have brothers and sisters or anything? What is name one?
My brother is RL.
RL. All right. So if I were to say, what's your relationship to RL, Casey? What would you say?
He's my brother, and
Okay.
we share a lot of similar interests. We're alike in a lot of ways, and we are really there for each other.
Beautiful. So let me ask you all this. So how do you think Casey feels about her brother, and how her brother feels about her, from what she said?
They're very close.
They're very close.
Um,
They're very
they
close.
love and they trust each other.
They love and they trust each other. So why am I bringing that up? Because relationship is not a title. Relationship is not a title. It's not that XYZ is my father. It's how do I feel about my father? That's the relationship. How does my father feel about me? That's the relationship. So the relationship with the community is, how do you feel about them? And how do they feel about you? And the only way those feelings can be generated is knowing who you are and then knowing who they are. And that is all a part of preparation. It also affects another element, which is delivery. Now, you all are the professionals. So you may feel like it's phony working on this, but it's not. It's not, because you are the professionals, and that's what professionals do. And the public, they need you to work on your delivery so that it makes sense to them. You know, we're going to talk about a little bit about logic in a minute, but nobody makes decisions based on something that makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world for all of Memphis to be with Orion. Why? Because the money grows. Am I right or wrong? Am I misunderstanding? But nobody's going to make a decision
Correct.
based on that logic. They're going to make a decision emotionally. And so it's important for you to work on your delivery so that you can make it make sense, but also generate emotions so that they can be helped. And so that they know that the help is there. So delivery is important. And one of the things that I want to talk about delivery is two ways. Some of you guys are memorizers, and we're about to get into execution in a minute, but you can leave it there. Some of you all are memorizers, like myself and like my current student. He is a memorizer. When he tries to go off of the top of his head, he dies. He dies. Plain and simple. But when he memorizes, he flourishes. So he is a memorizer. some of you guys, you can go right off the top of your head. That's great too. That's great too. So you have to decide on who you are. Another part of what I teach is knowing who you are and what your style is as a speaker or a presenter. But here's the deal. Whether you're a memorizer or whether you go off the top of your head, you must practice. You must go over it, especially when you know you have opportunities coming up. If you think that I didn't work on this presentation before I met with you, you're greatly mistaken, because I did. I always work on my presentations. I'm an actor. Okay? But I just want you to know that it's really important, because if you don't work on your presentation, you're not working on delivery and you will fall flat. Okay? And we can get into execution now. Execution is really important. You know, Alton and several others of you that I've worked with know that in person, I have a certain way that I help you deliver. Am I right or wrong, Casey?
Exactly right. For better or for worse.
That's right. That's right. But it's different now. It's different for you, and it's also different for me. And that difference is, of course, COVID. And guys, I want to be able to tell you that things will go back to normal. I don't think that things will always be this way, but I don't think things will go back to the way that they were. This is a whole new world we're living in, but there's no need to be afraid of it. There's still a way to present online, as I'm doing for you right now. And you can do the same. And so there's a couple of things that I want you to be aware of. Notice right now, in the execution, we're just going to do it with Zoom right now. Notice right now the way that I'm making eye contact with you. There's several things. There's eye contact, there's status, and there's mirroring, which is somewhat almost impossible on Zoom. But I can make eye contact with you as I am doing pretty much right now, because right now I'm looking where, guys?
At the camera.
At the camera.
At the camera.
At the camera. So you want to make sure you're looking at the camera and not looking like how I'm looking right now. Who am I looking at right now? Can you tell?
Well, we don't know.
You don't know, right? And if you don't know who I'm looking at, that means you don't feel I'm looking at you. I'm actually looking at myself, which sometimes I find it very hard not to do, you know, because I'm right there. But what you want to do is find the camera, make eye contact with it. But then also, I'm engaging, like right now I'm engaging Casey. She doesn't know, but I'm engaging her. Right now I'm engaging Alexa. Right now I'm engaging Alton. And sometimes it's good to do that because it shows that I'm being active on the camera. Does that make sense? Right now I'm on the edge of my seat. Because if I sit back, well, one, you can't see me if I sit back, but also what's happening? My energy is going way back here. And that doesn't work on Zoom. Zoom, you have to be even more physically engaging because the technology is right there. So the energy, you have to have more energy than even when you do in person. Okay? So you want to be on the edge of your seat, or if you're able, you want to be standing when you present. Because your spine is aligned, and that means your energy is is radiating off of your body, and you're generating more natural energy for yourself as you're presenting. Okay. The other thing that you need to do is something else that I'm doing is my voice has a melody to it, because the thing that you don't want to do on Zoom,
Sound monotone.
that's right, especially when you have a voice like mine, a very resonant voice, because this voice of what I'm doing to you right now, if you
It's
notice,
gonna put me to sleep.
it's going to put you to sleep because it is designed to hypnotize.
Say that Catherine does an incredible job with her voice inflection on Zoom meetings.
Okay.
She brings a lot of energy and she pushes it through her voice. So where her body is still and centered and focused on the camera, her voice is doing all the work. Her inflection is working. And she's
Beautiful.
bringing a lot of energy to the meetings.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Follow her.
Thanks. I didn't know I did that, but thank you.
Good
That's
job,
great.
Catherine.
That's great, Catherine. I'm proud of you. That's great. Well, follow Catherine's example, because that's what you need when you're in Zoom. But hey, it's great even when you're in person, is to have a melody to your voice. And there's an exercise that I do with that I can show you all before we finish today. So there's the vocal energy, there's eye contact, and also so that you can be physically engaged, you want to be either standing or be on the edge of your seat. There's also status. A lot of times, if you notice, I do what I'm doing right now, which is what? What did I just do?
Paused.
Pause, right. Pause helps develop status, and also stillness develops status. And you lower your status by a lot of movement. I talk about that a lot when you're in person. But if you can just remember those three things, physically what you can do when you're on Zoom, standing, sitting on the edge of the seat, vocally what you can do on Zoom, which is having some variety in your voice and also having energy in your articulation, and eye contact, which is doing what I'm doing right now, which is making eye contact with the camera. Okay. And then also placement of the face. So notice there's a good balance. There's a good balance between my head and the top of the frame and the bottom of the frame. So you don't want to be like this, right? You don't want to be like this. You don't want to be too off to the side, either side. You really want to try to do your best to center yourself in the frame. Does that make sense? Okay,
Yeah.
a couple more things before we finish.
Darius,
Yes.
Alf, he practices his pausing
Oh, he does. Okay,
before when he's presenting.
excellent. How's that working for you?
All the pregnant pause is a win. I love the pregnant pause. It's great.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. It's really powerful.
Colin does it too, but it's because his internet pauses. I just think he's pausing it's because the internet stopped. So
Well, thanks for that one, Scott.
So guys, when you deliver, there's two ways. We talked about pathos, passion, and logos, logic, or communication. Pathos, passion, you must have story. You've heard me tell several stories when we've during this meeting. We also talked about the story of Orion. And within every story, there's what I call three P's and an S. You can pull that up there if you don't mind. And that is person, place, problem, and solution. To make it very simple. Person, place, problem, and solution. In my world, it's really in all of our worlds, but in my world as a storyteller actor, there's what's called have you all heard the term the Hollywood formula? Have you all heard that? The Hollywood formula. It's real. It's very, very real. You will find the formula in almost every movie that's out there. And that formula is based on a man by the name of Joseph Campbell, a hero with 1,000 faces. Have you all heard of that? Joseph Campbell, a hero with 1,000 faces. His work inspired, you've heard of George Lucas. Yeah? George Lucas is the writer and director of the mega series Star Wars. So in Star Wars, you'll find that hero's journey. There's always a hero, always starting out in an ordinary world. Then something happens, thrown into the extraordinary world. Then there's some kind of a conflict. And then there's the arch enemy. There's always the mentor that's going to prepare the hero to face that arch enemy. Okay? It happens in Star Wars. If you all remember the movie Rocky, it happens in that. It happens in all the stories, even in the myths. It happens in the Jesus story. It happens in the Buddha story. And we can go on and on. Well, as human beings, we love stories. It's a multi-trillion-dollar business. And so within those stories, I've simplified it into person, place, problem, and solution. So with the Orion story, for instance, person is the characters. Who are the characters in the Orion story?
All of us.
That's right. But in the original story, the origin.
Oh, the
Teachers.
teachers.
The teachers, they're the person or the people. What is the place?
East High School.
East High School. What's the problem? The problem.
The problem was they need better banking solutions for teachers in the Memphis area.
That's right. And then the solution?
They opened their own credit union.
That's right. So as you all are out and about, notice when you're talking, notice when a friend of yours is talking, and in mentioning any story, be aware there's always going to be a person or people, place, problem, and solution, or sometimes it's not resolved. That's important because when you tell a story, those images of that story come up in your head, in your imagination. And when you see that, you relate it to what may have happened in your own life. And then it generates some kind of emotion. It may be light or it may be heavy. And that emotion is what moves you. So when you're delivering, when you're out there, it's important that you give yourself the opportunity to add story in your presentation. Maybe the story of Orion. Maybe the story of you with another individual, family, or organization where Orion or you were able to help or bring about a solution for someone else. So you have that, you have story. The next thing, you go to the next slide there, is communication or logic, making it make sense. And there's hundreds of uh, rhetoric tools that you can use, but I just want to use this one: compare and contrast. So, what are 3 ways, and any of y'all can answer this, 3 ways that Orion can be compared and can contrast with other financial institutions? What are 3 ways? So you can name, if you have one, that's fine too. But I want to hear from several of you guys.
Our
Well, we
product.
compare. I was like, okay, we have the same products that other financial institutions offer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the comparison, but the contrast is we have better rates.
Have better rates. Okay, that's one contrast. Beautiful. What else? What's another way? So we all agree that there's a comparison. It relates to, it has other products like other financial institutions. But what is the contrast? Because it's the contrast that could help make it make sense for me to want to become a part of Orion. What's the contrast?
We're local and not a big corporate place based somewhere else.
Okay. What else?
Our members are our own. So we don't have shareholders. Every single person that walks in the door is a shareholder. And they're the ones that benefit from our profits. We share our profits with our members with low loan rates, higher deposit rates.
Okay, beautiful. What else? One more. It's one other one. A big one that I'm looking for.
Member experience.
Member experience. Okay, beautiful. What else?
I mean, we're like a 501c3.
501c3. There's one other big one. It's in all the advertising. It's the one I like. What happens when I put my money in Orion? If I leave it there?
It's going to grow. You're going to earn more money.
It's going to grow. So my point is that if you all in your preparation can name them off, boom, 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 the contrast, now you're in a great position to help someone like me. Because until I started coaching Orion, I did not know. I'm driving up down the street, I see Regions, I see Independent Bank, I see Bank of America, I see Orion, and Orion fits in with everyone else. That's what I knew. That's what I thought until I started coaching. And then I kept hearing it over and over again. Now, mind you, the advertising is there. But advertising is not human beings. Advertising does not have imagination. The advertising is not really able to tell a story and generate emotions. It does somewhat. You do that. Advertising is not able to create events for the community. You do that. So I need you, the leaders and the team, to know the contrast and the comparison. You can make it make sense to me because I need you. And there are many other people out there who need you, but they need you to be able to make it make sense to them. Does that make sense? They need to be able to connect with you. That's going to come about through story. So in presenting, you need both. And then lastly, it's connection to the community. What I've been doing with you right now is finding ways to, most of you I've just met for the first time, but finding ways to connect with you. It's called interpersonal communication, how I communicate to you. And what have you noticed in a way that I have connected with you from the beginning? What are some ways that you've noticed in my methods of connection with you?
Your
Calling us by name.
Calling you by name. What else?
enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. What else?
Getting us to participate.
Participate. Hopefully I've made you laugh a little bit. Yeah.
I thank you for the $25 Amazon gift card you sent us. That was nice.
I sent you a $25 Amazon gift card.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Hey, I could use a $25 Amazon. Hey, that's a great idea, though. That's a great idea. But my point is that I've found a way to connect with you as you have all these tools. We'll find better ways to connect with the people that you're working with, the organizations, the individuals, the family members, your own family members, strangers, and also utilizing your imagination or creative imagination to come up with ways that you can connect with the community. And just for kicks, because we only got a couple minutes left, what are a couple of ways that you can connect to the community out there during COVID? What are ways that you can connect to the community? Just a couple.
So right now we're offering virtual appointments. So some of those can be done over WebEx. And so you can actually, instead of talking to someone on the phone, you can actually look at someone and have a direct conversation in a private virtual meeting about their accounts.
Okay. Well, beautiful. I wonder what would it be like connecting with any churches in their WebEx or Zoom meetings? In some of the communities that you serve, where people, they don't know who you are, but they may very well need who you are, and being able to present in those places. And if you continue to use your imagination and begin to think about those things, there are plenty of places where you can connect with people virtually and build a relationship with them. And then lastly, because we have 1 minute left, is be authentic. Everything that you learn today is to help you get more in touch with yourself. It's not about imitating me. It's not about imitating Catherine or Casey or Alton. It's about finding you and where you fit in all of this and doing it your style, your way. So the most important thing that you can do is to be authentic. Guys, I've enjoyed you all. I've had a
Thank
great
you.
time with you all, and I do hope to see you guys again. Turn it back over
Thank
to
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you're on mute there.
Thanks,
So much
Darius.
Thank you.
for taking us through all of that. You're exactly right. We're going to talk about the advertising in there, but we tell the story a lot, and that's one of the things that changed when I joined Orion was the PR push and really telling our stories. And that's what I'm trying to do with our leadership here, and those that have been on this call especially, is to empower them to be the brand and to feel comfortable being authentic and to speak on behalf representing Orion in a way that is exciting and has energy and that feels authentic and something that we can all be proud of, that's consistent with the brand. So that's what today was all about, is really to extend to everybody that you are the brand and encourage you to to take that on and feel it and speak it and share it.
All right.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Thanks.
that.
That was a high five, Casey. I'm getting a high five. Casey, I'm getting a high five.
All right. Thank you guys. All right.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for this.
You all be well.
You too.
You too.
Thank you.
You.